Okay, I'm going to show you how the channel strip is the same thing repeated all the way across. These buttons aren't that scary. So first, we have our gain right there, our gain, and then we have our EQ section, semi-parametric EQ. Then below that, we have our sends, our auxiliary sends. Now this board happens to have 6 sends right there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then below that we have our left and right pan knob that determines whether your sound is going to the left, the right, or the left speaker. And then below that we have our fader. So let's switch our fader right there. Alright, that's your overall volume. And it's the same thing all the way across the board. Think of this as a narrow channel and your signal flowing down it like water. You're on the right track. Right up here we have the gain knob, which, believe it or not, signals are pretty quiet, so you need the gain knob to amplify it enough to work with. This here is the EQ section. Down here we have our sends, which are like little doors on the side of your channel, and they send the signal or part of the signal off in different directions as needed. As we come down here, you can think of this as 2 doors at the end of the channel. They work together, and so this will send it more out of one side of the channel, in this case the right side, a little more out of the left side. And then down here, this controls, let's say, the amount of water that eventually comes out through the end of your channel. And this is known as the fader. So you can think of the EQ as volume for specific frequencies rather than the entire sound. Up at the top we have our high shelf, and below that we have our high mids. Those 2 knobs control the high mids and they are connected. And then we have our low mids, and below that we have another shelf, which is our low shelf. So at the top of our EQ we have what is commonly referred to as a shelf, and what that means is that even though it's centered around 12 kilohertz, as you can see there, it is going to raise and lower a shelf of frequencies. If you imagine the frequencies as a straight line, it's going to raise 12 kilohertz and frequencies a bit above that. The same is true of the low shelf, centered on 80 hertz. It's going to raise or lower 80 hertz and adjacent frequencies, which is why it kind of looks like a tuning fork. Now for the frequencies in the middle, the high mids and the low mids, those look like a diamond, because at the peak of, let's take the high mids, it's going to raise 3 kilohertz. At the trough, it's going to lower 3 kilohertz. And let's see, the low mids are at about, let's say 100 hertz. It's going to raise at the peak 100, lower at the peak 100. Now, because it's in the middle, it's not raising or lowering anything, but that is the basic functionality of your shelves and bands.